Hello and welcome to That British Homestead. My name's Nick and today I thought I would show you clearing out the greenhouse. Let's get started. Firstly, look how nice all of those are. They're growing really well. Some more brassica. So I did a poll a couple of weeks ago. Have you been affected by blight? And lots of people, vast majority of people who answered was like, what's blight? So I thought I'd show you. As you can see, this plant here. Do you see that fruit? Oops, it's gone. See how the fruit... Okay. See how that's gone all black? And all like yucky looking? It starts off on the stem. Do you see? It's a fungal infection and it moves up and it spreads and it kind of kills everything. This happens to tomatoes and it happens to potatoes. It's airborne. You can compost this. This is fine to compost because as soon as it's dead, it can't be affected by blight. But as you can see, this is all affected by blight. This is healthy. And at the very edges, you've got some blight. Okay. Oh, it's like falling apart. You see that's got blight on it. Yeah, blight. And healthy. It affects the fruit. Now, for example, here, this plant, okay, this fruit here is not affected by blight. It will be fine. So you can pick that and eat it. But all of that fruit that's actually actively got blight, you cannot eat like that. You wouldn't want to eat that. It looks grown. But I will be putting these all into the compost and making good use of them. Do not worry. Picking what we can. So let's get started. Okay, so I just want to let you know that I have a new microphone. It's very exciting. I know. Just let me know down below. I think it sounds really cool, but if you think it sounds worse, please let me know. I'm definitely not an expert. So yeah, just let me know down below. I really like this new microphone, but it does flash and I'm the most distracted person in the world, so I'll try to endeavour to stop it from distracting me. So what we're doing here is I'm just going ahead and clearing out my blighty tomatoes. Now my blighty tomatoes are going to be stripped of any good tomatoes, as I've explained to you before, and I'm going to be giving any tomatoes that are perfectly fine but I'm not going to eat to the chickens, because I think that it's nice for chickens to have treats as well. As a person that loves food, I would hate to have to eat the same thing every day, and I know that chicken feed is the best thing for chickens, don't get me wrong, but I would really like to have a treat if I was a chicken. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of the split ones in to my chicken coop and remove anything that has blight on it. Now I am going to compost anything here that has blight, because once the life has left the plant, blight can no longer be sustained on the plant, so it doesn't stay in the soil for the next year. It is airborne, so you can go ahead and compost it. I know lots of people are just not comfortable doing that, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with burning it and then scattering them ashes if that's what you want to do. At the end of the day, guys, it's about feeling more confident, isn't it? Who really minds which way you're going to do it, you know what I mean? Do whatever makes you feel comfortable, but like I said, I'm going to go ahead and compost it. Now, saying that, I am going to pick up all of the tomatoes that I've knocked off onto the ground. Reason being is I don't know if I'm going to have compost. I don't know if I'm going to have tomatoes in this shed, in this greenhouse next year. However, I don't want a load of volunteers, so I'm going to go ahead and pick them up. I know that I'm going to have 1 trillion volunteers in the actual garden. That's fine. I'm okay with that. However, I don't want a load of volunteers in somewhere that I'm endeavouring to keep sterile, so I'm going to go ahead and pick them up. I'm also picking up any bits of blighty or rotting leaf, just so that when I sow my seedlings in here, they're just minimal slugs basically, because it's going to be wet and it's going to be miserable and the slugs are going to want to come in and eat my seedlings, and I don't want that basically. Like I said, everything that I'm not going to be using is going to go on the compost heap, and it's going to go and be upcycled, sort of, so recycled. All of this compost that I'm making will be used for the allotment, and it is good to have your own source of compost, because as we learned not long ago now, sometimes things go crazy and you don't have what you need. So it's really good having a resource that you control. Okay, and I have to say, guys, right, and this is really cool, we've just got a load of horse manure being delivered to our allotment every single week. How good's that? So that is really exciting for me personally, because I was driving very, very far to get that horse manure, which I know is not good for the environment, and kind of reducing the amount of like miles that my food's doing is one of my primary focus. So I want them to be doing very close to zero, and due to it being a incredibly local stables, it is only moving less than a mile, so that's much better. I'm going to be removing a lot of this to make room for my cauliflowers, and my cauliflowers are going to go in here. I'm going to startle you now, so I hope you're sitting down. Basically, all of those steaks that I pulled out of here, well, I actually put them away. I know, I'm shocked too. I'm trying to be a little bit more organised. I'm not a very organised person. I struggle with organisation. I think most of us do. And I'm one of those people that I feel like tidiness I really struggle with. I'm always what you call a hot mess. You've seen me cook in my kitchen. I've seen the comments where everyone's like, wow, her kitchen's so messy. It's one of those things where I kind of use everything and never put it back. It's something that I've always suffered with. My partner, whenever he meets anyone from work, he always goes, what's her desk look like? It's messy, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, it's really messy. Because he laughs that I'm the most messiest, and we have an 8-year-old. It's just something I've always been with. I shared a bedroom with my little sister, and my little sister's one of those people that are incredibly tidy. Bless her, right? And I reckon you could have seen the exact line of where my half of the room was and her half of the room was. It's just the way I've always been. I've been a bit of a scatterbrains, but I've decided to make a conscious effort to try to spend a few minutes every day. Every day I go down there, just having a little tidy up, picking things up off the floor and actually putting them away. I know, shocking, isn't it? Maybe putting my secateurs away, which will be very exciting, won't it? So here I've got some basil, and all I'm doing with my basil is I'm stripping the leaves off of it. Now, I wanted to get this basil before the frost came. It was starting to go to seed, and I was like, oh, shall I collect some seeds for my basil plants? But alas, I think that the frost will be a little bit too soon, so I'm going to go ahead and strip them off their leaves, and I'm going to be drying this basil. By the end of today, I did pick basil, mint and rosemary, and I'm going to be making a mixed herbs, or a herb de Provence, which is basically just a posh way of saying mixed herbs. And the way I do it is anything that I have that season that's done well, I just stick it all together once I've dried it. There's many ways you can dry it: dehumidifier, or just bunching it and leaving it up to dry, whichever makes you happiest, I guess. So what I'm going to do is just crunch them up and go ahead and put them into a jar and use them throughout the year. The only thing that I do not put in there is sage. I love sage. One of my favourite things to eat is Jack Be Small roasted with quinoa inside with sage. Oh my god, it is so good. However, when you're canning, because remember I do a lot of canning, right, and I want my mixed herbs to be canning friendly, but when you can, you spend a lot of time growing it, you spend a lot of time canning it, loving it, sharing it, because I give a lot of things away, especially for Christmas. I like making gifts. Anyway, imagine you've done all of that, and then you're like eating and you're like, this tastes bad, this tastes like mould, this tastes bad. Well, yeah, that's because you've got sage in it, so you've got to be careful. If you're cooking or anything like that, just make sure they have that in the back of your mind. But if you're doing tomatoes and you put some of this basil in it. Really makes it pop. So I will look to some recipes where they do just chopped tomatoes and they put a single basil leaf on top, and then obviously they turn the jar upside down, and it just over time sort of flavours the whole entire tomatoes. And I have also read that if you grow basil and tomatoes together, then the basil enhances the flavour of the tomatoes. I don't know if that's true. However, in this particular greenhouse, I did notice that the tomatoes were quite bitter. I don't know if that's anything to do with anything. It could be because they didn't have so much blah 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 blah. We don't know. You can't just look at one like idea and then make a conclusion, don't get me wrong, but the ones outside were so significantly nicer, and I do wonder whether it is any combination of that. I don't know, but I have to say that obviously they're all different varieties, and I have found the yellow and black, I think it is yellow and black, I found that quite bitter. One of my friends gave me some and she was like, oh, I've grown these, and I found them really bitter, and I was like, She does have diabetes, and she says she grows that variety because it's not as sweet, as she worries about the amount of sugar due to diabetes. Anyway, I just thought to myself, I really like, me personally, there's absolutely nothing right, like tart tomatoes, love it, go for it. I really like a sweet tomato, and I do think to myself that I need to ensure that I have that, because that's what I want, right? And you remember we talked about this, why we save seeds. We save seeds so that we have better tomatoes next year. What we want, that's what I mean by better. What you want. You could be thinking to yourself, sweet tomatoes, couldn't imagine anything worse. All I want is bitter tomatoes, and you go for it. More power to you, right? But that's not what I want. I want really incredible. I want tomatoes that you eat and you think you've just eaten a sweet. That's what I like. Each their own, isn't it? Here, by the way, just to let you know, I'm just going to go ahead and do some weeding, and I'm taking out the carrot that I've saved for seeds. I try to save as many seeds as humanly possible, because seeds are they're not very expensive, but they're expensive, right? I love seeds, and I do have a little bit of a problem with seeds. I am going to have a video that's coming up soon of my seed collection, and you'll see what I mean. I do have a lot of seeds. I love my seeds, and it's getting to the point where I'm going to reorganise them, because there's just so many of them, guys. Like, there's so many seeds in my life, and I always think to myself, and I always say to Bob, I have two hobbies, right? And they're completely unrelated in my eyes. One of them is collecting seeds, and one of them is gardening. Now, you're probably thinking, but they're related. Oh, no, no, no. No, 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 no. I'll tell you why, okay? Because I buy seeds, and I don't sow them, okay? And you're thinking, but you do sow them. Yeah, I do. But, like, if I didn't buy another single seed, I reckon I have enough to feed a good army for a very long time without buying any more seeds, on the basis that, for example, one type of pepper, I have over 3,000 seeds. Will I ever need 3,000 peppers? No. Why do I have 3,000 seeds of that particular brand then? Because I do. Okay? It's rude. You shouldn't ask that. But that's just one pepper. I have so many carrot seeds. I've got so many pepper seeds, chili pepper seeds, you name it. If it is a strange variety, I'll probably have it somewhere in a little baggie. So I'm going to go through later, guys, in another video, all of my seeds. I'm really excited about that, because there's a few varieties that I'm like, oh, should I go and buy them? How very exciting for us all. So I want to make sure that what I've got, basically, and the bare basics that you need, like a red sunflower, a black sunflower, etc. Guys, I saw a sunflower this year that looks like a teddy. I might need that one too, obviously. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But going back to this, ramble. I'm just basically going ahead and putting some sterile compost on top, because, like I said, you can shut the doors and shut the windows, and it's going to be completely sterile in here. So I can just go ahead and sow in it and not worry about anything out competing it. This is a no dig method. and this is what I'm going to be moving my garden onto. And I know that you're going to think, thank goodness, because I know you guys hate the plastic. I know it, me too. So this is something I'm going to be doing over a given time, and it is something that I do want to be focused on, but I also have to keep in the back of my mind that my allotment does need to fit round my lovely family and my full-time job. So it is one of those things where ideally you would have all the time in the world, but realistically you sadly don't. So I am going to have to compromise on some things to make it work. Okay? Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.